Thank you for joining us today. We've got a great set of speakers with us, distinguished panelists. We'll be discussing today millennial travel, millennial trends, the new age customer of tomorrow, and the interesting changes we're having across the board, across tourism, travel, trade, hotels, and so forth. I'd like to invite His Excellency Sheikh Khalid to the stage, please. Thank you for joining us, CEO of Bahrain Tourism. As well, Mr. Mohammed Shbib, CEO and founder of Tajawul.com. Wherever you feel comfortable. This keeps changing. Mr. Riyad Al-Kurdi as well, please, GM of MasterCard UAE. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. So we'll kick off a little bit with just a rundown of the hot topics of today, and we'll dive into them shortly. The key things are travel bookings, from the first click to the last click, how are things changing? Design for millennial travelers, how millennials influence their peers, their parents, their colleagues, and so forth. Spending habits and the rise of experience travel, as well as Instagrammable moments. So just some key facts that I think will get the juices flowing. Millennials born between roughly 1980 and 2004. They represent 33% of the global workforce. They are over 2.5 billion people worldwide. Today they represent the largest generation of customer base ever. They are the largest base of some of the biggest markets in the world, which affects a lot of our businesses essentially. 60% in India, 55% in China, 29% in the US, 28% in the UK. I'd love to hear on Bahrain and so forth. I know in this region it's close to 50%. 34% of business travelers today are the millennials and beyond. They shall exceed over 50%. Over 70% of millennials believe it's their responsibility to share. They feel it's on them to share, whether it's good, bad moments online. Interesting fact, there are 18 clicks when someone is booking. This is some of the research we've come up with through our global reviews for our reposition of some of our brands. That means people browse several portals and then go back and book through one. And lastly, characteristics in terms of how important certain things are for travelers. 82% are online media and offers, 64% are budget sensitive, 17% seek interaction, social experiences, and 14% in terms of environmental sustainability. Going back to our topics today, I'd just love to get Your Excellency, your thoughts on some of the things we've come up with today in terms of the facts, and what Bahrain Tourism is really looking at with the new age traveler and then the next decade for tourism.
All right. First of all, good afternoon, everybody. Assalamu alaikum. I would like to thank you for your kind invitation. From a new age young traveler, I think I fall under that category myself. So I love traveling, and that's maybe one of the main reasons why I worked in the tourism sector in the first place. The trend keeps on changing. I'd have to say probably not on an annual basis, but on a monthly basis. The way how the media is working, the way that how the social media is working, and looking at different factors, whether it's online or even socializing between friends. Things changed from 5 years ago to where we are today. Today, I go onto Instagram, I see where my friends had dinner last night in Dubai, and hence I booked tonight the same place where they had last night. It's a social thing. It's where people have dinner, where people travel. And now the new age traveler is looking for new destinations. The main destinations such as Paris or London or Los Angeles, these main destinations that has been always and continue to be as a main destination. People are looking for new places to go to, such as Bora Bora. And I think one of the main reasons why Istanbul is on the map is because it's a new experience. It's a mix of the Middle Eastern, European cultures put all in one place. And at the end, I believe services is the #1 fundamental in any tourism. If you have the right services, whether it's Uber, whether it's applications, even on a concierge level. Now, I was in Istanbul a few months ago, and I was quite impressed that they gave me a mobile phone with no SIM card, only data. And I could have browsed and checked my emails, voice over IP, and it was from the concierge. That's something, that's a service.
And that resonates with you, right?
Exactly, and as I say, it keeps on changing on a monthly basis. And if you don't pick up, you'll be left behind. So this is probably the introduction in terms of global perspective. But in terms of Bahrain, we have just launched our new tourism brand just a week ago in Bahrain, and our official launch will be here in Dubai tomorrow in the ATM at 12 p.m. And the way we're trying to promote Bahrain is through the new millennial platform, the digital platform, social media platform, and even our calendar of events in Bahrain. I can tell you, we highly invest in TV and radio stations, but yet the most cheapest is the most the most cost-effective is the most effective, which is the social media. I remember once we paid around 50,000 BD on newspaper prints, which is around 500,000 dirhams, and then we had the same event the year afterwards, and we only focused on social media, and we spent 1/5 of that, and we had a much higher effect. So the millennial way of approaching, and I have to say, it's not about just young youth, or everybody now is on Snapchat.
Hence the millennial drive to influence peers, and that's an interesting point. And Mr. Muhammad, for those that don't know Tajawul, it's a fairly new platform. It's 100% digital online. If you can just give us a flavor of that, and I think feed off on what His Excellency was stating in terms of the sharing phenomenon and the booking trends and so forth.
The idea behind Tajawul is that we looked at the Middle East, and we figured that there is no Middle Eastern bred online travel platform. In a sense, when we talk about platform, we talk about anything the consumer chooses. And as you said, the millennial consumer is the driving force at the moment for any kind of traveler, like in all other sectors. They opt to choose their iPad, their Android tablet, their mobile phone, switch to the web when they're in the office, for example, on the desktop, and back and forth between the channels as they wish. At the same time, there is no one that serves their needs specifically here in the Middle East with their very specific requirements in the Middle East. As you know, like travelers from the Khalij, for example, have certain requirements when they travel to Europe that you don't see in the other platforms. Yes, you can book something, but is it a facility, for example, where I can have my own cooking?
Yeah.
As simple as that. Where would you know that from? And you see them talk to each other in their majalis, for example, when they visit each other. Yes, I've been here and there. Yes, they gave us a part of their kitchen, our maid could cook there, etc. This is a phenomenon that will go completely online, and it has started already. So what you see today, for example, in your friend news feed on Facebook or any other social media channel, you see a photo, and then you see 20 comments starting with, where was that? Right? If this person says this was Bora Bora, you can bet that half of the people who ask where is that would travel. They never thought about it, but they would travel. So there is a very powerful phenomenon here that the millennial travelers are very outspoken. They are almost forced to give feedback on certain things they experience because they just want to share the positiveness as well as the negative. The consequence of that is what His Excellency said, service becomes key more than ever because the negative amplification of the experience leads to concrete business damage in no time. You can do an excellent job. There's one case that gets viral, kills you, literally. And I think this is a very, very strong thing that we focus on in Tajawal, that we want to make the experience as transparent as possible, as tailored as possible to the millennials, because also a mega trend I would say that you see is you need personalization in anything you do. One size fits all was 10 years ago. Today, you have people who want to use the tablet. They want to look for something which is very extreme activity sports. At the same time, you have his neighbor or her neighbor that wants to do the standard London gig, like everyone else. And they do it every year, same location, same spot. And their interest is, I want to book within 2 minutes. The explorative millennial consumer wants to book, it doesn't know actually what he or she wants to book. They want to explore first, which takes, you said 18 clicks. I measure it in time, on average 10 times, 10 minutes on site versus 1.18 seconds.
Is it on the same site or they browse around?
On the same site, or even when they browse around, it's even more. So what they do is, it all starts with your feed, either Instagram or Snapchat or Facebook. They get ideas, they get inspiration, and then they walk to, they continue to the channels that they like most.
All right, great. And yet, how's MasterCard adapting to these shifts in online and digital behavior?
So Rami, thank you very much for inviting me. First of all, I just want to make sure of two things. One, 20 to 30 years ago, people used to take on average a month to two to complete a booking for travel. Because they have to speak to friends and make sure they call the airline and visit the airline and check destinations, see what's available, and then reach the hotel, which is a more difficult, versus today, which is less than a few clicks away and you've booked your vacation. People ask me, when they hear the word MasterCard, they immediately think the banking and payments and stuff. And I always like to reflect on the startup of the credit card companies, including MasterCard, which was to ease up the travel and payments for consumers, whether it was started for dining and being able to go out, to actually leaving your country and going overseas and being able to do your transactions. Today, from the seat of your house with an iPad and a credit card, you can actually do 95% of your travel plans without even leaving your seat. You can book your hotels, you can book your airlines, you can book your dining, you can book your tours, you can book your theme parks, you can do all that. And therefore, we've spent enough amounts of time in building research to basically understand the consumer behavior and what are the preferences, and also enable solutions that actually cater to the needs of the consumers. So for example, almost 10 years ago, we launched our Priceless Cities Index, which was to measure the travel between new destinations to new cities in the world. And that actually enabled us and the government to develop plans, and the airline industry, to develop plans to actually create pockets of incoming traffic from those markets to create tourism in the UAE market. So that, combined with also the benefits that we've created for our customers. Millennials are very important. Everyone knows their importance. Everyone knows their purchasing power. And therefore, it's for anyone, whether a tourism authority or a company that caters for customers, to address their needs and be able to find what they actually need and what they actually aspire to, His Excellency Sheikh Khalid mentioned something very important, which is the people are looking for experiential tourism. That's growing rapidly. Somebody mentioned the Bora Bora. People are going to Peru just because they want to go to Machu Picchu, just because they know it's one of the seventh wonder of the world. So experiential is very important. It's growing, and it's kind of rewarding. People want to reward themselves for doing a great job during the whole year by actually going and exploring a new destination.
Thank you. And going back to Your Excellency, we touched on the leisure side. There's the business, corporate travel as well. What are the key differentiators of Bahrain that drive people to come in terms of that experience, whether corporate or for leisure travel?
Our tourism strategy is based on 4 A's: awareness, accommodation, attraction, and accessibility. And all 4 of them are experiences on its own. So Bahrain, like in the GCC, the way we look at ourselves is one destination. But each country has its own qualities, characteristics that makes it different. And the way we would like to position ourselves is that we're an authentic city. We're very authentic. When you come in, the Bahraini is the taxi driver, the Bahraini is the guy in the reception, the Bahraini is the guy you meet in the street, and it's a very multicultural destination as well. So for instance, if you go into a lobby, you would see 6 tables, and you would find a Bahraini in probably every one of these tables. So this is something that money can't buy. And hence, we would like to invest on it and try to make it very clear in terms of investments, for foreign direct investments, and in terms of attracting tourism. Going back to the experience aspect of it. Our neighbors, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, is our main tourists. Last year we had 11.6 visitors to Bahrain. 83% of them came through the causeway. Around 23 came through the airport. During peak times and weekends, the conjunction in the causeway reaches up to 3 hours. And I get pictures from friends and colleagues saying, look, a lot of people are coming in, this is so... And I look at it and I get very devastated because it's a bad experience. Imagine you in a car with your family, your kids in the back crying, there's no toilets because it's so far away, and it's a 3-hour issue. The way to solve it, when we sat with the Ministry of Interior, it's all about data capturing. And when I say data capturing, the reason why it takes time is because there's so many cars, and each car, when it reaches to the captain, he has to take their passports or their CPRs, identity cards, and download. It's a data capturing. Now they evolved to a point where they just give them their ID card, they put it in, and it automatically takes the data capture. What we have in mind right now, we're trying to create a software whereby it automatically collects the data prior to your arrival. Through an app, you fill up the app, how many passengers are you in, and everything is in the app. You clear it before entering. So all the officials there, they only have to make sure that they're the exact same people who applied in the application, and you're all set. That's very important. Another thing that we currently finished in Bahrain is that we launched our new online hotel classification system. Every general manager in our hotel industry have a username and password. They log in, and real-time basis, one of our inspectors would go in, and let's say they find a stain on a curtain. So he takes a picture of the stain, uploads it real-time, the general manager gets a flag. That room has a stain. 2 days later, the general manager himself, through his iPhone, takes a picture, uploads it onto the system, clears it out, there's no more stain. Then my inspector doesn't have to go. This is done, and we're the first to do it. Another thing that we also worked on is the social media reports. We outsourced a company to actually analyze all of the social media feedback of our hotel infrastructure. And they're based on 5 fundamental factors: cleanliness, location, price for value, services, and the food and beverage outlets. So we focus on those 5 areas and we rate them out of 10. So all of our hotels, 100 plus, are listed, and we get a full report on each hotel. So we no longer have a mystery inspector. This has been cancelled a year ago. Based on those social media reports, because we actually get the real feedback from the real guests.
By the consumer, for the consumer.
Exactly. So then, if we know that hotel has a problem with hygienic issues to the show, we drill in and read the actual comments. We call in the hotel, shape up the hotel, and then 3 months later, we see the change in terms of services. So these are some of the things that we use from a millennial perspective on upgrading our services.
And that would play quite nicely for your platform and getting maybe this app in terms of the process of visa of the entrance could be uploaded on your platform. And are you creating interesting packages, not just booking airlines or hotels? You touched up on experience. We touched up on experiences, all of us. And you mentioned they want to know if there's a kitchen, and other OTAs, online travel agencies, don't really create those detailed packages catered for your core base, which is the GCC, I believe.
So at the end of the day, we're looking at this local market, GCC mainly, and then we'll go into North Africa and Levant area as well, but GCC is the main market. And the content that they create now in Bahrain, which I'm hearing now, is obviously extremely interesting because it's authentic, as I said. That's, I think, key. It's authentic from consumers, and I bet you that 80% of the content you get is from millennials at the end of the day. So this is a very authentic content, and what we strive to do when we look at our holiday product, which we're still developing, but we will launch it probably towards the end of this year, is we're looking to integrate with the different tourism councils of the different countries and see what we can do together in order to get the richest information about the country, about its facilities, about the services on the ground, from the country itself, from the tourism councils themselves. In addition, visa process, online visa process, I think is key. It's still, when you look at anything that is immigration, obviously it's related to security issues, but still, there are certain administrative things that are not related to security that you can streamline by just front-loading them in the travel process so that they don't cause the stress. And I think I don't know, I'm not millennial anymore, you probably still are. But I can relate to that, sitting in a car with 3 children in the back, not having access to facilities, and shouting children after 3 hours of drive through the desert of Saudi Arabia is probably nothing nice. Right? So that's something you want to avoid, because if you have only 1 weekend in Bahrain, and you spend 3 hours entering to this weekend in stress, the rest of the weekend is stress. So this is something technology can solve. And it can solve by a strong integration between authorities, between service providers on the ground, and between people like us who provide the travel service.
And why launching now, Tajab?
Why not? No, more seriously, why launching now? Because honestly, there is no good service that is dominating the Middle Eastern market at the moment. If you look worldwide, you basically have 2 providers. You have Expedia and you have Priceline.com.
Yeah.
As an AS, I'm raised outside of the Middle East, but I'm back here now for 10, 12 years, and I don't want to give up this space to some foreign company that comes here and takes on our region.
Then also, I'll probably add to that, Arabic speakers. You will be amazed how, even if they were very well educated, high net worths, they still prefer reading Arabic. One of our popular cafes in Bahrain, Cafe Lilo, and I once invited a very well-known businessman, and the moment you opened the menu, we asked for an Arabic menu, and to actually have an application, online application for Arabic speakers, it has been neglected. Although, if you read reports of the UK, how much Arabs spend in the summer, you'd be surprised.
And And that's kind of embarrassing. If you look at, and this example is perfect, walk through certain streets in London, certain streets in Berlin, in Paris, you will see Arabic all over the place. Walk through Dubai, Riyadh, Jeddah, you see facilities where you get a menu in English even though you look Arabic. So this is also why we said if we really did this and we launched Tajawwal, we want to do it the Arabic way for the Arabic consumer, because this is the consumer base that is underserved.
And it hasn't been tapped yet.
Yes, it's completely untapped. So the reason for that is A, we have an industry in the Middle East that is growing within the next 2 years from whatever, $18, $20 billion to $40 billion online. It's untapped in terms of Arabic. It's untapped in terms of specialized content that they're generating right now and that the millennials are consuming over social media, and it's not brought in a way that has a good user experience on all the devices that actually they choose to use.
Okay, very interesting. And do you see a MasterCard spending behaviors? We're talking about experiences, and we touched upon Machu Picchu, Bora Bora, and going to these places. You know, Portugal has become a very hot destination. Spending, business travel, what's shifting? Are people spending less in more high-end hotels, and are they looking at more conveniences and so forth? Are people spending more on dining out and entertainment, or are people spending more in terms of getting to places such as Machu Picchu, that's on the leisure side?
So I'll address this question, but first I want to make a very important comment to Shabib. So, which brings in the research that we've done, an index that we've launched, which is the Muslim Travel Index, which brings in the whole component. People are not just looking for Arabic, and I want to talk about the personal experience. I visited South Korea for the first time last year, and the lady speaks does not speak any other language other than Korean, which I wouldn't even understand. But she scans the passport in immigration, and the device realizes that Arabic is my language, and actually the device greets me in Arabic. And that tells you that they wanna target the segment of whether we classify ourselves as millennials or not. At the end of the day, there is a growing segment within the millennial segment that are the Muslim travelers. And to my shock is
50%, sorry, of the customer base or the population in roughly the GCC is in that bracket we talked about.
Absolutely. So to my surprise, I asked the hotel where's the good places to go and have. I recommended a couple of places. When I was there, a lot of them had the halal sign. So and that brings into the topic of the Mastercard Travel, the Muslim Travel Index, which is a lot of economies around the world are actually investing significant amount of money to attract the Muslim travelers. They know they have a purchasing power which is stronger than the averages. Muslim families are in size much larger than the other non-Muslim families, and therefore their ability to spend is much higher, and they prefer to find places where they reserve halal food and halal functions and all this stuff. Now I come to the spend part. So with millennials, because of the power of technology, they are looking, it's few clicks and you can find the best deals in town. And with that in mind, they actually don't mind spend for the experiential part, but at the same time, they're also looking for the best deals available for them, whether the hotels or whether the airlines and stuff. Now, I want to caution something which is very important. Many years ago, since we're not millennials, the options of destinations available to you as a traveler were very limited. I mean, if you would call Gulf Air in those days or Emirates Airline, when it was born, there were only like few destinations. London was one of them. Today, I think Emirates, I was hearing them saying they were traveling to 150 destinations. Etihad does almost something similar, Qatar Airways and a number of other airlines. So millennials are no longer just doing that usual one trip per year. That's no longer the place. I mean, people, because of their work balance, the hectic life that we're living in, people actually reward themselves a number of times during the year. And the classification is, there's a short trip, there's a medium trip, and then there's a long-term trip. So spend, I don't think spend is an issue for the millennials or the segment of people that are traveling. Remember, we're living in a tax-free economies, and therefore you're available to spend income allows you to enjoy some of those perks and some of those benefits. But at the end of the day, whether it's for business or for personal, people are spending on achieving to travel and explore new places in the world.
You were nodding on to that.
I think the critical part of what he's saying is there is available money to spend. I think on average in the GCC specifically, it's higher than elsewhere in the world. People envy us actually for that. But people have become increasingly smart spenders due to the online availability of things. So what they do is, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you would see that from the data. When they look for flights specifically, they want to save money. No matter what class of travel they use, they want to get the best deal. When they look for hotels, simple hotels, standard large chain hotels, they want to get the best deal in town. If they find packages within the hotel that make them save only 10% of what they would do if they went there, let's say to a theme park without the hotel booking, they would book it via the hotel. And then when it comes to, I want my kids to enjoy the day, then the spend opens up. So they save money on the one side, spend it on the other side. So the overall spend, I think, and you probably have the historic data, did not change. It increased over time, according to the index.
It's just a split of where the spending is
the
going.
Distribution is different.
And Your Excellency, with that in mind, and I know that Bahrain has a great initiative to drive more tourism, reaching I read 1 billion in contribution from tourism in the next 10 years, the next decade, as well as focusing on the MICE sector, not forgetting also the sports and lifestyle field. Is that playing into the type of infrastructure you're developing, whether for events, conferences, sports events, etc.?
Definitely. When I came to office 3 years ago, there was a lack of information. And due to the lack of information, it was very, very hard to have clear targets and goals, because I don't understand the consumer behavior. So we have to understand the consumer behavior so that we can build the future. So we collaborated with the Central Information Organization in Bahrain, CIO, and it took us 1.5 years to collect this data. And after exactly 24 months, we finally got the data at the end of 2015. And it was very, very interesting, the things that we noticed through surveys. We realized that the average expenditure of people coming through the causeway was 121 Bahraini dinars, which is 1,210 dirhams. And the ones that came through the international airport was 101. So there was around 40 euros difference. So yes, they do spend more, our neighbors. And then we drilled in and looked, how do they spend that money? Is it on hotels? Is it on entertainment? Is it on food and beverage? And surprising enough, shopping was the #1 part of it. That's where women come in. And then accommodation. So shopping first, accommodation, then entertainment. So understanding the consumer behavior is very important. Now, a new trend in the region, which affected European markets, is hotel apartments. Today, as rightly said, sir, that we travel, families travel. So hotel apartments are now the most convenient accommodation for families. Instead of booking 3 rooms, you take 1 hotel apartment, and it's more cost effective. And when you have a brand chain assisted to it, it also makes it more convenient. Looking at the accommodation part of Bahrain, 40% of the people that come through the causeway stay in hotel apartments. 40%. While we only have 80 hotel apartments and 90 hotels in Bahrain. So the demand is so much higher in hotel apartments. Once we announced these figures, 2 weeks later, I had 6 applications
for
hotel apartments.
We have both in the kingdom, and we do. I mean, we do see, we get a lot of families, and a bit longer stay, so they stay longer in the hotel apartments than in the hotels. We get more corporate.
Of course, and as I said, like if you look at London today, there's numerous of developments with hotel apartments that are targeting these segments. So understanding the consumer behavior is essential.
What's interesting on the travel side is what we're seeing in the hotel sector, and we're rolling out our more mid-scale offering, but geared. You know, the mindset we found in the past, and you 3 gentlemen can shed light on this, is if it was 3-star, it was bad. If it was 4-star, it was not great, and you know, there was an ego-driven consumer behavior. Today it's different. Today you're seeing, you know, there are a lot of real estate developers, some of them are here, who are focused on that sector. We're focused on rolling out hotels that are affordable. They can still be cool and fun and relevant for the new traveler. They might not stay there every time they travel, but they'll travel 3-4 times a year. And one of those trips might be, you know, let me find something that's affordable and conveniently located, hence the location side of things. Well, do you see a shift, or do you see that segment in your customer profile growing, that they're looking for, okay, find me something that's good, but is still very affordable, and then I can spend on retail and shopping?
I think since Tajawal didn't launch the hotel product, yet we're launching here with the ATM, basically, after the ATM. But we've done some research on it. Now, you have the same available funding as a traveler, but from an annual vacation to a luxury hotel, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, this shifted to, let's say, 4 to 5 shorter trips during the year. So naturally, the budget is split, right? So you have additional flights, and then there's limited money for accommodation. That's one. Second, I think more important than the star rate, and let me complicate your star rating a little bit. When I came first to the Middle East, back in the days when I came here, I heard sentences from Arabic friends in Germany saying, you know, when you go to Dubai, make sure you book a 5-star hotel that is less than 2 years old, because after 2 years they're wrong. Egypt, Dubai, blah, blah, for all the countries they said the same. So I was like, okay, this is strange, because like in Europe, 4-star, 5-star, you know exactly what you get to a certain standard. In the US it's kind of different, because usually they don't maintain them a lot, but you have a standard per country which is 4-star or 5-star. What you see today is, whether it's 2 stars or 3 stars or 4 stars, all the booking systems that you see now and all the social systems that evaluate stays have an evaluation index that is different from the star rating that comes from the tourism councils of the countries, of the ministries of the world. And it counts more for a consumer. When I look for myself, yes, maybe you filter by 4-star or 5-star or 3-star, but at the end of the day, you sort by evaluation: business traveler, family traveler, leisure traveler, etc. That becomes the driving factor. And I think this is the link back to our topic. Yeah. The millennials look for opinions by similar people at the end of the day. And this drives the overall travel experience. And for me, it's super interesting to see that in Bahrain, you're obviously basing your decision making on the data you collect exactly from those consumers, not to create your business or like plan your country. I think that's an amazing phenomenon and shows the power of the millennial consumer.
We've talked about consumer behavior. I know that you have some key highlight figures. I've pulled them up. I don't know if you want to run us through a few and then ask some of our distinguished panelists if they have any thoughts or on any of them. The last point for me is extremely interesting. Please.
So I just want to highlight a couple of things. Coupled with experiential, the millennials have access to good, adequate income. And therefore, they want to have enjoyable vacation undisturbed, and therefore they're looking for certain benefits that are loaded into the cards. So for example, concierge services. People, when they're traveling, they are looking for something that allows them to help and make decisions faster while traveling. So concierge is becoming very important, especially when people are coming to exotic locations and they need some reference. The other thing which is very important is that people are also eager to find offers in their destination cities. So because finding hotels and finding airlines is very easy, but finding offers that actually suits you is very hard. So you either go through the long way of searching and all stuff, or you do what we've done, which is building a portal that basically provides people with offers across 40 cities around the world, part of our Priceless Cities platform. So just to give an example, 2 days ago, I had a friend of mine calling me saying, hey, yeah, I'm traveling to New York. Do you guys have anything to do with the New York Yankees? And honestly, I didn't have an answer for him. So I said, hey, listen, why don't you just go to the MasterCard Priceless Cities portal and check it out? And I didn't hear back from him anything. So today in the morning, just in the morning, he calls up and he says, you guys actually have a fantastic offer with the Yankees. And I was like, okay, that's great. I didn't even know about it. But I called up my marketing lady and I asked her, and she said, we have 700 plus offers available for consumers, including some of the main attractions in cities like London, Paris, and some of the top destinations around the world. And that's always hard to find because most of the consumers, when they get a card, they think it's just a credit limit and doesn't give them a lot of accessibility. But I think concierge services, the offers that we make available with the card, the protection that comes with the card is very important because it does give the consumer a lot of peace of mind. See, consumers today when they're traveling, they don't want their card to be blocked just because the bank was not able to get in touch with them. And therefore, we are launching services that cater to the frequent traveler. So for example, identity theft, we want to make sure when the customer is using his card in the US, no replication of the same card is being used in Malaysia or any of these markets around the world. So there's a lot of solutions that we are putting in place to help the banks provide the customers with a fantastic journey, including offers, domestic offers like discounts and partnerships with hotels and stuff. At the end of the day, we've said this a number of times, millennials, they're very savvy, they have access to the latest technology, and therefore the information is easily available for them.
Thank you. And I don't know, Jan, the interesting part for me there is if I had to pick one part of it, is that Yankee story. I think it really plays on the experience side, beyond the limits of here's a credit card and it's a transaction facilitator. It's an experience facilitator, I think.
Let's spin that further. There's a deal that you have. You don't even know about it, right? So how should I know about it as a consumer? Now, where does the online or the technology come into play? Let's say we know that MasterCard has this global city offering. You team up with MasterCard, you integrate with MasterCard, you have an app that consumers, if they use a concierge service, the first thing they would do is they pick up their phone, right? And we see ourselves then as a travel butler or as a travel concierge service that is digital. They pick it up, it should recognize the location, it should recognize you're currently in New York. We probably have some preferences from the data that we gather about what they look for when they travel, and would be able to suggest, listen, there's a great offering today from MasterCard, big data, connectivity. There's a Yankees game tonight, do you want to attend? We have a deal where you save 20% and you can get up to 3 tickets first row. This is kind of the stuff where millennials appreciate the service, because rather than spending 2 hours running around talking to the physical concierge in the hotel, figuring out with friends and be on the phone or on the web to surf, it's a 2-second thing. They pick the app and they see this offer. I think this is powerful.
And I think that plays into things like the F1 events in Bahrain and creating that packaging deal across different platforms.
I just want to comment on the application part of it. According to Apple, the applications is only in a baby stage. It's 5% of its momentum. Imagine. So all of the applications that you see today are just the beginning. And I could relate to this. Yesterday I met a German guy living in Dubai. He created an application whereby there's no longer, the you go to Starbucks or coffee shops. So instead of having actual coupons, you use this app. And now it's a multi-million-dollar app. Just from that idea. And imagine, so in the future, everything is going to be app-oriented. So the future is in the application world. So that's an excellent step where you are today. 20 years forward, if you step in the market first, inshallah, you'll be able to take the biggest share. In terms of packaging and events and MICE, currently in the Tourism Authority, the exhibition is now under umbrella as well. So the reason behind this is that we're very, very busy as a weekend destination. In 2015, we're no longer a weekend destination. We used to be 1.8 to 2 days as an average length of stay. We're now 2.3. So Dubai is 3.8, I believe so. So we're reaching there, so we're no longer long. The way to go forward is to make sure your days are busier than your weekends. And the way to go forward from it is through meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions by making business meetings in Bahrain during weekdays. And what we see today here in the ATM is one of the great examples. And the ATM began in Bahrain 15 years ago and came to Dubai, and it's all because of the infrastructure that's available. So we're currently going through a tender process of launching a new exhibition center. The budget that we're looking at is around 120 million euros just for the exhibition center, other than the mall and the hotels.
If you need a budget hotel, I'm happy to
A budget hotel is needed, definitely. And going back to the star rating factor, I totally agree with you. It's no longer the star rating. I myself, when I book for a hotel, the things I look at the valuation, and then the size of the room. That's it. If he's getting a 9 and the size of the room is 2 times the one that I was supposed to go to, I'll definitely go to the other one. So the Formula One, these mega events are very important. And it's very, very important to select a mega event that happens annually or semi-annually. The Formula One is an annual event. So if you keep on increasing hotels, increasing restaurants, you still have that momentum going on. But if you're going to go and have something like the Olympics, or something that's a one-off event, true, you will upgrade your infrastructure, true, you will upgrade your services, but then you have an oversupply in accommodation rooms, an oversupply in restaurants, and then that is something you should look at. So I highly recommend to have annual, semi-annual events, not a huge mega event, like Mecca, Al-Umrah, and the Hajj. It's an ongoing process. They keep on developing hotels and restaurants, and it will never end
over 9
because
million a year visit.
and it will increase because it's an ongoing process. It's there to continue to be there. So it's something to think of.
Interesting. You know, I'm going to lead. I know we're running out of time. I want to give the floor some questions. I'll just leave you with the last point. I think it's interesting. For us, it's they want to discover things that are new. They want to do it in a fast way. We talked about platforms, etc. And I think thank you, gentlemen. I think it's been really, really interesting listening to what you have to say and how you keep pushing the envelope. We love to be a part of it in this part of the world, and we're working on some things that are pure online based. So you check in, you get your room key becomes your phone, etc. So thank you, gentlemen. Please, a round of applause for everyone with us. And if there's any time for questions, are we okay? Yeah. Up to you.
Great. Thank you, guys. Great panelists, great topics. Can you hear me?
Yes, we go ahead.
Topics, like I said, it's great topics. This is a user economy, a shared economy. It's a power shift. There is no coming back from this. My question to the panelists is, why are we scrambling around today? How come we didn't see this coming preemptively? Okay, like you said, in about a couple of years, 50% of the travel industry are millennials. Why didn't we see this a couple of years back, 4 years, 5 years back? My worry is what is to come now that we're not seeing today.
It's a very good question.
And then second question to the guy in the red tie. Sorry, I forgot your name. I flew with Emirates. I'm staying at one of the local hotels here, local brand. Out of the 4,000 that I'm paying for the flight and the hotel, 1,000 is going to Expedia and Booking.com. And you guys are providing a service. That's 25% money that you'll never see here in the GCC. Why not create that model of Booking.com and Expedia? Since you're one economy, you can replicate the same thing. 25% of my money in this week. It's not even coming to the region. It's staying up in the cloud. Not sure where it's going, but it's not coming here. You guys can create one here for the region. Since you're providing the service, you can retain the money as well.
We'll start with the first question, I think, and then we'll
repeat it.
Oh, sure. So the first question, I'll allow everyone really to answer. The first one, if I'm not mistaken, is why it's a sharing economy today, and we talk about the statistics of 50+% are millennials. Why are we so late, not just as a region, globally, in tapping into this digital online phenomena or catering to this behavioral shift? I think. Am I getting it? Hamid, would you like to start?
It's difficult to answer. The first counter question I would have is, are we late? Just the first question that I have. So based on what facts would you say people are late? Now this is just to challenge your question a little. The second thing I would respond to is, a lot of companies that you see worldwide are Me Too companies, not innovative companies. But there's very few people that are innovative. And the reason for that lies in the economics. There is a very high probability of failure when you innovate and try to do something ahead of your time. Maybe you do the right thing, but it doesn't take off in 2015, it takes off in 2017. You don't have enough cash to survive. That's a risk that you can calculate, and you will see a probability of 80–90% of failure versus if I copy-paste Booking.com, which is a model that works in its basics, the likelihood of me being successful if my operations are very, very good in a market where Booking.com is not present is probably much higher than creating something that is totally new. Right? So there is an economic evaluation before you do something entrepreneurial or business-driven decision that has to do with the likelihood of failure and the availability of cash in that scenario, predicting what will happen in 3 to 5 years. I think this is very safe to say. The other thing is, I do believe that when we invest today in consumers that are at the age of 18 and we do a good job, if we don't sleep totally over what is happening on the technology front, they will stay with us, because customer loyalty depends on 1, 2, 3, 4 factors that are known to everyone. If you're good on these dimensions, you will survive. If I have a MasterCard that I have had for the last 15 years and I'm happy with the service, I can have 50 promoters coming to me in a mall and I would not switch. Right? So there's a certain loyalty, there's a certain evaluation of cash availability and predictability of the future, and there's something which is around innovation. I think the mix of those would probably still not be able to answer your question.
Your Excellency, would you?
Yeah. But I just want to say something. I mean, I don't think it's a game of late or early. I mean, no one has the magic ball that allows you to know whether you can predict future. I mean, I was in a room back in end of 1999, and people thought the whole world was going to collapse because of the new millennium, the Y2K. And if I tell you how much companies have spent money on the Y2K and the preparation, and when people started calling from Australia to say, hey, nothing is happening, people were saying, okay, let's shut down, and we're like, no, it may happen, and eventually nothing happened. Technology is changing. I mean, every day. When did we think smartwatches would happen. Well, smartwatches have been there since the 1990s, or the 80s actually. Casio used to be there. Casio used to be a calculator. Apple comes in, and so there's a lot of change in technology, and therefore the point Sharif also mentioned is some people are afraid of failure, and therefore some people are wanting to wait and see what are the consumer trends, back it with a lot of data in order to make the right choice. But I just want to say, the way I used to book my travel last year has definitely changed this year. And knowing how many solutions and applications and developments happening, I can assure you, by end of this year, the habits will be a bit different. Because I'll give you an example. If you go to bookings.com and you actually put in a destination and you leave the site, chances are you will be haunted by them every time you log in to basically sell you either that destination at better prices or another nearby destination. But why? Because now they have a more intelligent tools that allows them to understand the behavior and be able to make sure that you actually keep clicking. So I think the technology will play a pivotal role in every day that we see in our lives. And the other thing is, consumer behaviors are also changing. So I think, therefore, there's no magical, solution to anything. I just want to make one more comment on something I heard 2 weeks ago, which is the life expectancy of applications. So somebody was telling us that there's a research done by some company in the US that says applications on average within 2 weeks, they're actually dead in your mobile, except social media, because people are big on social media. And that's an important point, because social media and how it has grown in the last couple of years, or let's say the past 5 years, and how it's affecting the travel decisions of people is also something where a lot of the experts don't even have an answer for that, in terms of how it will converge and where it will lead.
I'll be bold to say that I think one of the why things have accelerated also today is because a lot of the consumer base are the driving force behind the innovation and the change. The millennials, or the ones who have the millennial mindset. Hopefully that. The second question, I think Mr. Muhammad had answered it. It was on basically Expedia and the OTAs, and how they take 20%, 25%, and how to leave that slice in the region. And I think that's one of the things, correct me if I'm wrong, you're working on, which we're not too happy about. But
so I'm not going to go into detailed commercials of what other players do or don't do. All I say is, from a macroeconomic perspective, any player that becomes too strong harms the market, right? So if someone has an extreme distribution power and enforces prices on hotels, it damages the hotels in the long run, because if their profitability is not good enough, they cannot impress the customer. For a distribution company, it doesn't matter, because if this hotel falls out, they have 50,000 others, right? And that's, I think, a different thing we look at as a locally bred business. We want this region to be successful, and only then we can be successful. So in terms of commercials, this will also, it will show in the commercials, but it's a philosophy thing, it's an ethical thing, and it's a values thing in the company, how you operate in your local market. At the same time, you need to ensure that you're competitive on a global scale. Because, again, even if you're an offline travel agency, someone walks in and wants to book a hotel, he has his mobile in his hand with the prices he sees on Google, on Booking, or on Expedia, or on Priceline, or whatever. Right? So you need to be prepared to match this. It's a much more complex business, obviously, as we all know. So discussing just the side that faces the consumer on a B2C platform is not sufficient. There's 3, 4, 5, 6 levels that take a little piece of the cake, and all these players have a right to exist. All these players will change fundamentally because the industry is being disrupted as we speak.
Rami, I want to add something, which is something, and I know I'm running out of time. I just want to say this. I visited our innovation labs a few months ago, and the guy said we're working with hotels. So I asked him, what do you mean by working with hotels? He says, if the hotel knows the consumer is coming to the hotel on that particular date, why does he need to check in? He's already given them the credit card. details. He's giving them every signal that they need. So actually what the hotels need to provide the consumer is access to the room immediately. So when you come into the hotel, all you need to do is just basically go to your room. And I was saying, wow, that's interesting, you know. So it just shows you that the world is changing. So that same hotel allows the customer to select the room that they want, with the view that they want, and then they can access the room basically through any smart device that the consumer have with them. So things are changing.
Thank you, and that's where we would work with the likes of the tourism authorities to integrate the certain security issues, but that's definitely something we're exploring. Please, a round of applause for our distinguished